All right. Hey, it's Jason Montoya. I'm here with Jason Long, good friend. Someone we met a few years, it's been probably 7, 8, 9, 9. I don't even know what it was, but
Been a
maybe
long
a
time.
decade ago. Originally, I think it was through the Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce. We saw each other at different events and whatnot. Eventually ended up shutting down my marketing company, shared my story, and you read it, and there were some parts of it that you resonated with. So you reached out to me, and that's kind of when our friendship really started. So tell me about you and what you're doing and what you're up to with your business.
So let's see, gosh, a lot of stuff right now. We are just about to launch our latest software as a service, MedRev, which is a reputation management system for healthcare.
Okay.
Um, I'm really, really excited about that. It's actually starting as reputation management for healthcare, but it's really a patient experience improvement company. So
Okay.
something to help. I'm sure you and I and so many other people have had all sorts of issues with healthcare,
Yeah.
and sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes a lot of times there's just people not doctors not understanding what you're going through,
Yeah.
and that's what we're helping people with there. But anyway, so that's kind of our latest thing that we're in the process of doing. We've got JH Media Group, which is how you and I met, and we did that. We've been doing that since 2002.
Okay.
So
16
for
years now.
yeah, a long time, man. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Um, and then of course, Brainleaf, which is another software as a service company that's actually in the middle of a bunch of upgrades as well.
Yeah.
So, and that's a system that helps designers and developers figure out how much to charge and what goes into the projects and get the projects planned out.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay.
lots of stuff.
And
That's
the common thread between a lot of these is really the development, correct?
development and yeah, I guess I mean we are more than anything a tech heavy company. We operate to some extent as a marketing company, but we're really a development company with a
Yeah.
marketing arm because we have these SaaS systems. So we have marketers marketing our SaaS systems, but it takes the tech heavy side to build those kinds of systems.
Yeah. And what type of role do you play in your different companies?
I'm the CEO of the company of the umbrella company that runs all the other companies,
Yeah.
and that means all sorts of things. I do a lot of the sales at JH Media Group. I am a product manager at Brainleaf. I'm the product manager at Brainleaf.
Yeah.
I'm a primary stakeholder at MedRev. Um, and generally I just help people get their jobs done.
Yeah.
I help train people, I help work with people, I help align goals, I help maintain culture. um, I start new programs,
Yeah.
sometimes to the annoyance of other people, sometimes not, and I push the company forward.
Okay.
I think at the end of the day, I think really at the end of the day, a CEO really pushes his company forward and grows his people, and that it can be summed up with that as to what I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great segue. So essentially, for me, with my blogging and my freelancing work, I'm focused on growing, myself, but also other people, and then also growing small businesses. And so, I want to explore, this idea of growth in these three different areas. So, I want to just start by exploring this idea of personal growth and business success, and how does one understand what these two variables are and how do they interact? Can we separate them, or are they interlinked?
I think that I, I don't know, man. That's I think that when you're an entrepreneur and it's your everyday kind of thing when you're thinking about this all the time, it's hard for me to separate business and personal growth.
Yeah,
I think that you can definitely take aspects like your relationship
yeah,
and say, like, oh, my relationship is separate.
hmm,
But for me it's not, because my girlfriend and I work together.
yeah,
but but um but it is a different thing. It's not the business by any
yeah,
means. So I think that growth, it's my opinion that having a partner in life is one of the most important things that you can do
Yeah.
to increase your happiness. At least it is for me. It's not for everybody, but it is for me.
Yeah.
So I think that growing your relationship and, making sure that you're always working on that day in and day out is a really, really important thing.
Yeah.
Um, so, that's one place where it certainly comes, separates. But
Yeah.
then there's also for an entrepreneur, the business enables me to do a lot of things in my personal life.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy traveling, and my girlfriend really enjoys traveling, and so we travel
Traveling to
together.
where? Like what kind of traveling?
Oh, international traveling. So
Okay.
we're going to Bali this month in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Gone for a month.
This
Come
isn't your first rodeo. You've been around the world 1,200 times or so.
well, a couple times here and there.
Yeah.
But I actually so that's how it's kind of together, because when I'm away, I
Yeah.
can think about work.
Okay.
If I'm
Yeah.
not in front of my computer every day, I come up with the best ideas when I'm somewhere else, when I'm in
Yeah.
a different situation, when my team doesn't have such easy access to me, and I can really think about what's going on. So,
Yeah.
and that applies to personal as well, because while I'm traveling, a lot of times I'm like, oh, what I really need to do in my personal life is this thing,
Yeah.
and that'll enable this other thing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the question is how do we intersect these two so that they're in alignment and they're actually empowering the other versus fighting against each other? Is that kind of what I'm hearing from you?
Yeah, it's a hard line to walk. Is kind of
Yeah.
like, I think that sometimes, like, if the line is here, sometimes I'm far to the left and sometimes far to the right. Um, but I think that part of that is also having relationships in your life that accept that.
Yeah.
And I think that you also draw in the kinds of people that you're friends with are
Yeah.
the kinds of people that understand your challenges in many cases. So for me, like, I have these times where I can spend lots of times with my friends, lots of time with my friends, and then I have other periods, months and months at a time, where I don't get to see anybody.
Yeah.
So, that personal side is very intertwined on that as well.
Yeah.
Um,
So what
and
about
then,
like we get a little practical, like your strengths and your weaknesses, those they come with us whether we're working or at home, so how does that, are you able to mitigate your weaknesses better at home or at work? or neither or both?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. So that question wasn't in the list of questions you gave me ahead of time.
Throwing
I
in a curveball.
prepared for that one.
We can come
Uh,
back to it.
so let me think. Ask the question one more time. Let me make sure I got it.
So how do you leverage your strengths and how do you manage your weaknesses both personally and in the business? And is there one area that you do it better than the other?
Yes, for sure. So in the business, leveraging my strengths, I guess mitigating my weaknesses is a better way to put it. In
Yeah.
that, I'd like to hire people that are good at things that I'm not good at,
Mhm.
which can be kind of hard to do sometimes, because the a really great example is I'm fine living in chaos.
Okay.
Not like my bedroom being a mess, but like, like if a
Things
hundred
going
things, yeah,
crazy.
exactly, lots of things going on. I can switch gears very fast. I'm not saying that I like to focus on one thing at a time, but if in business, three different businesses are running and tons of
Yeah.
things are going, and there's a problem, I can switch over and take care of that problem and then move back to where I was before, no problem. But we like to hire project managers that are very, very organized.
Gotcha.
And the reason they're very organized is because at multiple levels, emotionally, in a lot of cases, they can't deal with things not being in order.
Yes. Yeah.
And so my tendency to not worry about the order collides with their or butts heads with their tendency to always want things in order.
Yeah.
So that's something that
Well, and
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I've had the similar experiences, and one of the challenges we had in my former marketing company is um, we would find some of those kind of people, but the chaos was so intense that that they would run away. So do you find people that they're good with the chaos and bringing it to order, or do you still have that struggle where you do have to sort of protect those people that like things organized from the chaos that's going to ensue?
I absolutely protect those, or I do my best to
Yeah.
protect those people. And what I found on the application of that is that for those kinds of people, I give them 1 or 2 or 3 projects, and I'm just saying like, these are your projects,
Yeah.
and you manage them. And I know that they're usually big projects that they're going to keep on running with for a long time. They're an ongoing kind of like managed services client, and they can just manage that and not call me,
Yeah.
because because like what's going to happen is they're going to be like, well, I need XYZ thing, and I'm like, well, let's just change all that stuff around, and they're going to be like, what are you doing to my project? So you know different clients and different people work better with different kinds of projects, and hiring the right kind of people to manage those kinds of projects can be really critical to keeping your customers happy and keeping your
Yeah.
people happy and all sorts of things. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess at the end of the day, a lot of it's going to come down to your leadership. So, as how old are you now?
39 years old,
30?
man. 30.
So, you're not the same person you were when you were 20, when you were 25, 30, even 38, right? So,
Maybe.
how have you kept yourself sharp? What have you done to grow as a leader, just both personally and as an intentional leader of others? Both in terms of circumstances that force you to grow, and things that you intentionally do to help develop yourself.
So I think that the number one thing that I've done is be deliberate.
Okay.
Like, think about what I'm doing and take deliberate action. I
Yeah.
feel like you grow yourself by practice.
Yeah.
You set forth a goal, you set forth an objective, and you say like, I'm going to meet this thing. But you don't just like, it's growing yourself is not like growing, like getting a project done.
Yeah.
It's an everyday thing. It's
Hmm.
about making the right decisions, or
Yeah.
making the best decisions you can, and learning from the wrong decisions you made, and deliberately making the next decision.
Hmm.
And not just letting those decisions happen to you,
Yeah.
but really like pushing forward on what is deliberate practice, analyzing the results of that, and then making more right decisions, or best decisions you can at the time.
Yeah.
And it's like practice. It's like anything else. Like if you are doing if you are practicing the right thing, you will get good at it.
Yeah.
Just like working out, like music, like anything else. It's all about practice, and it is absolutely cumulative.
Yeah.
So, working hard for this month or this quarter, cool. Working hard for your career, for your life,
Yeah.
that's what's important.
So, in terms of the growth itself, you mentioned that it was, that it does stack and it does grow. Is it a character and a maturity thing, or is it simply a knowledge gap and we're just making ourselves aware of these things, and because we have better information, we're making better decisions? Or, which of those two is it? Or is it a combination? Or is
I
it
think it's a,
neither?
I think it's a combination. Because I think about I think it's also a personality thing,
Okay.
because different people are going to take different approaches, and they're going to have certain strengths in certain areas and weaknesses in others.
Yeah.
Uh, my lack of strength in organization was something I had to work really hard on. Maybe
Yeah.
if somebody hadn't been as disorganized as I was when I first started, they would have been able to get
Okay.
further ahead faster. They would have been able to make better decisions because they were more organized.
Yeah.
Uh,
But at the same
but
time, they may not have learned how to handle chaos as effectively.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that most people kind of move at their own I guess if you're working hard, everybody moves pretty much about the same kind of path with that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's exact, but I think there's a direct correlation between how much you work and how much you can work on it to
Yeah.
how far along you get.
Okay.
Some people are just going to have the tendency to go a bit faster, but there's not that big of a difference, in
Okay.
my opinion.
Well, do you think, as we kind of, I want to have you share, maybe one of the most impactful experiences you had. Do you think when we face a higher degree of adversity, struggle, is that the context for the greatest growth, or when it's easy?
No, it's struggle. It's
Yeah.
definitely failure is where you grow,
Yeah.
for sure. 100% guaranteed. You learn from your failures.
Yeah. So
That,
tell so
yep.
tell me about, when in your life have you really had to face, face that struggle in a challenging way, and how did it change you?
Oh my God, man. Every day. But I'm sure that you and I have talked about this multiple times, but definitely the worst, the most impactful thing was I was in a really bad car accident in 2009.
Okay.
And that actually came right on the heels of the recession in 2007,
Mm.
2008. So let's
And
start.
you were running JH
Yeah,
Media.
I was running JH, and we had just started Map Dynamics,
Okay.
which is still running, by the way, but my business partner, Jeremy, runs that.
Okay.
Um, so we just started Map Dynamics. JH was running 2007. Things were going pretty well. I mean,
Yeah.
we had started in 2002, and by 2007, we were almost 30 full-time people.
Okay.
So it was like a fair-sized company.
Yeah.
Those weren't all actually FTEs. Those were full-time and contractors. But
Okay.
those contractors were a lot of them were full-time
Yeah.
contractors. Um, so man, yeah, it was like doing really well, and then like we weren't real diversified in our clients, and the economy crashed. I don't know if diversification would have helped, but we went from 30 people down to 8 people. We had to move out of our office in the middle of the night. We couldn't pay rent on our office.
Wow.
That was terrible.
And you hadn't been in the accident yet, right? Or yeah. So this was all leading up to.
It's all leading up to it.
Okay.
Uh, and then, so we got everybody moved into another house that I owned. Like I was
Yeah.
totally running that illegally. Uh, or like you weren't supposed to run an office in a house and like in a residence.
Okay.
But yeah, so we were. Um, and then I was finally starting to recover. Like we went from like 8 people and like a ton of debt to
Yeah.
like we were up to like 12 people and our debt was coming down and it was getting better. It
Now,
was
were you stressed and anxious, I assume?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot.
Were you having, were you just struggling just to move forward, or was it
Yeah. I
kind
mean,
of,
it was a struggle every day. It
yeah.
was absolutely struggle all the time. It was sorry, Georgia just pushed the door and came on in.
Our
The dog.
friendly interruption.
Okay, yeah, it was a struggle every day. It
Yeah.
was so much of a struggle. But anyway, so that we finally were growing the company again, and I was going to a meeting that was actually going to be a really big client we were going to close, and I was in the backseat of the car, and somebody was texting and driving, not in our car, in somebody else's car, and they ran into us. We got into a really bad accident, and I ended up in the hospital for several months with a lot of injuries. I was very, very, very lucky to survive. Like I
Yeah.
was the one in a million that survives an accident like that and is able to walk away and be able to think and live a regular life again.
Yeah.
Um, it
What
was
were the about the other people in the vehicle with you?
the girl driving. She messed up her wrist pretty bad, but she eventually healed from that. And the guy in the front passenger seat, everybody was knocked out,
Yeah.
was unconscious, but he was only unconscious for a couple seconds, and
Okay.
he walked away with bumps and scratches.
Mhm.
So although I will say, I think he may have suffered long-term the worst, because he ended up with really bad PTSD and ended up not being able to get into a car again, and ended up moving to Europe where he never had to get into a car.
Oh, wow.
And he's still terrified of getting, not terrified, but he's scared of getting in cars.
So you wake up in the hospital, or did you wake up in the accident itself?
I woke up in the hospital 2 weeks later. I was in a coma, I think induced and then not induced. I don't really know. But yeah, I woke up 2 weeks later
Yeah.
and was very confused about how I got there.
What's
And
going on? Yeah.
yeah, they turns out they don't tell you when you're in a car accident what happened to you, because like if you almost died and you're
Yeah.
like really are injured, nobody tells you. They're
Yeah.
just like, "Yep, you're here now."
You can't
So
leave.
you can't leave, you can't walk, you can't think. So you're
So did
definitely not
you,
leaving.
so obviously, when did your business, your life, your business, like, did you start thinking about, oh my goodness, what do
Yeah.
I,
So well, here let's go back to the struggle real quick, because
yeah.
and then I'll dig into that. So that car accident, really the biggest thing that hurt me was actually the brain damage. I
Mm,
had a moderate amount of brain damage, and that really caused some problems. That caused problems in running the business. It caused problems in my everyday life, and more than anything, it caused problems in the relationship that I was in at the time. And so that relationship ended up falling apart as well.
mm,
Um, and I think that, man, you put all that stuff together, like a company that's right on the edge, a terrible car accident, brain damage, a relationship falling apart, a long-term relationship falling apart, and you end up with being a mess, man, like
perfect
total
storm. All the
mess.
worst, all the things you don't want to happen, all happening at once.
Exactly. And paired with that, there were other circumstances, like my dad almost died during that time, and like
Yeah.
um man, it was a terrible, terrible time in my life. It was
Yeah.
really terrible. So going back to the accent though, the change, the thing that really made me think is I remember laying on that hospital bed, not knowing if I was ever going to get up from that hospital bed.
Mm,
And I was on so many painkillers, and I was like 2 needles in each arm,
yeah.
like all the monitors, everything. And I remember being so foggy, I couldn't think, I couldn't concentrate. But then all of a sudden, I had this like crystal clear moment when I realized how absolutely important all of those missed meetings with my mom were, all those missed lunches where she had called me and said, "Hey, you want to go to lunch?" And I said, "No, I gotta get this project done."
Yeah.
And how absolutely unimportant all of those late nights were that I
Yeah.
worked, where I pushed to get that next project done, or I, stayed up to get something done that in the long term didn't
Yeah.
mean anything. It just meant that I didn't get time with my family.
Yeah.
And I think that that was one of the biggest impacts.
Mm,
And that kind of drove me in a lot of ways to where to the direction I went in, which was to try to live a life where I could go and travel and spend time with my loved ones and do the things I wanted to do. And I'm really glad that we're talking about it right now, because this year I've worked super hard again, and
mm-hmm.
I've fallen back into that trap. And I feel a lot like a hypocrite right now saying, that this huge changing thing happened to me, and then letting myself get back to where I am right now.
Mm,
Um, but it was, despite where things are right at this moment, um, it was a life changing moment for me.
yeah.
It was really, really, you know how they say that when you lie on your deathbed, nobody ever lies on their deathbed wishing they had spent more time at the office. And I
Yeah.
can tell you, I
Yeah. A
can
lot
tell
of what
you
you're
for
saying
sure.
reminds me of the reports of what people say, and it's very similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, I can tell you from having been on a bed where I may have died, having some amount of ability to think about it,
Yeah.
it's 100% true.
Yeah.
That all that shit you're doing, it doesn't matter. What
Yeah.
matters is the time with your family.
Yeah. So what was it about that circumstance that gave you that crystal? Was it because you couldn't move? Was it because you were almost at death's death's
That's
door?
door. Yeah, I think it was a lot of things. I
Was it
think,
the time to just stop and think?
yeah, yeah, it was that for sure. There was when you can't move and you can't think, and you're literally strapped down to a bed because they're afraid you're going to try to get up again and walk away, which I may have done a couple times. You know, I had a broken back and a broken pelvis.
Yeah.
Um, Turns out you have a lot of time to think during those times.
Yeah, Blaise Pascal has got a quote, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone.
And when you're used to go 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 all the time, 100% of the time, and then you stop and you have no choice but to stop,
Yeah,
it can be really eye opening.
yeah. I guess in a sense, I almost think of that as like emotional or mental debt that we've got to pay.
Yep.
And, um, and yeah, that's interesting. So tell us, so that you were in the hospital for a few months and you had this struggle. And then once you got out, I imagine that struggle continued. What did your new normal look like? And
My new normal, it wasn't a new normal. It really, in a lot of ways, I had amassed debt, got business debt from the time I was gone.
yeah,
Projects were falling apart. Team was my business partner was doing a good job maintaining things,
yeah,
but still, this kind of business takes a lot of oversight,
hmm,
and he was busy doing the other things that he had to do full time for a job. So I ended up stepping back in and just trying to take care of it.
yeah.
Um,
But was
and
it simply a game of catch up? Everything was so
yeah,
far behind.
at that point, it took me years for my brain to heal. It was not an overnight thing. Like I struggled. I remember being in the rehab center, and they would give you these like logistics tests. It was like, what do you do first? Like, put on your pants, check the
Hmm.
mail, make your breakfast. And like, oh, I'm gonna check the mail, then make the breakfast, then I'll put on my pants. And that when your brain can't do simple logistics,
Yeah.
it makes running a business super hard.
Hmm.
So it took me years of just like relearning a lot of that stuff and regaining those capabilities
Yeah.
to really pick things up. And I struggled just to like manage the day to day for so
Yeah.
long because of that.
So, we think about like the business before all this played out and the business after. Did you shift it? Did you put in better systems to to allow it to run without you? What were some changes you made that made it less reliant on you should you get hit by a bus?
So it's a great question. It's a really
Yeah.
great question. So at first, what I did is I minimized it. I just took it back down to myself and one of our longest standing project
Okay.
managers, and I gave myself a few years off.
Yeah.
A few projects, nothing big, just kind of got by. Like weren't really in a growth mode. Um, and then when we started growing it again, I started working really hard on SOPs, on training people a whole lot more than I ever did before,
Yeah.
on expecting more out of people,
Mhm.
um, and putting the right people, like getting the right people. First of all, finding people that were capable of doing these complex jobs, paying them a lot more, and then really putting them in charge of those clients.
Yeah.
And that enabled those clients to run without me.
Hmm.
So I would do the sale, I would set up the system, I would bring in this person, I would put them in place, and we would still meet, we still talk regularly. But they have their list of SOPs, they have their processes, they know what they're supposed to do, and they can run and they can do those projects by themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone to think that this is a perfect system,
Yeah.
because it's not.
Yeah.
But it runs for the projects we've got that are big and ongoing. They run pretty smoothly.
Yeah.
There are projects where I never have to talk to those clients ever,
Okay.
and they make money every month.
Yeah. So what's the end game for you in terms of how you set up your business? Is it something you do want to be involved with just at a CEO level and not in the inner workings, or do you want to be involved in the inner workings? What's your
I
vision?
I go back and forth on that. It's a great question. You have so many of these great questions, Jay.
Thank you.
Um, it depends on where I am personally and how worked or overworked I am.
Yeah,
Um, right now, like this moment, I'm aiming to get easier systems in place. Running an agency is really hard.
yeah,
Everybody I know that runs an agency is like, yep, that's hard. Until you get to like a pretty big team, 30, 40 people, it stays really hard. There's a
yeah.
lot of stuff. There's a lot of variables. There's a lot of things that are going on. And my dogs are going to bark because the UPS got
Oh,
there.
mail's
Okay.
here.
Yeah. Ziva. No. Sorry. Um, Ziva, stop it. Sorry. Sorry about that.
It's not too bad on the microphone. So
Okay. What was I saying? Yeah, so I like being in the inner workings of the company. I really
yeah,
like being like day to day, like in it, knowing what's going on, seeing what's going on. Because one thing, because if a client calls me and they're like, "Hey, what's going on with this thing?" I like to have an answer for them.
yeah,
Um, so that's one. But then the second thing is I'm trying to build these other businesses
yeah,
that are much easier to run.
yeah,
So after having done a couple different SaaS companies now, is so much easier because there's not like if somebody doesn't like it,
yeah.
they can cancel. They can
Mm.
just not pay me anymore, and that's completely fine.
You have
But
a
if
diversified customer base versus a few large.
exactly,
Yeah,
yeah, and if so if somebody doesn't like it, then that's fine, and good to go. But if somebody's paying you $100,000 to build a project and it doesn't go well,
yeah.
you got some problems.
There's
You got
an
some real serious
emotional burden
problems.
that comes with that.
Say it again.
There's an emotional weight that comes with that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And that's, I can tell you for sure, running these SaaS companies, I'm a lot less emotionally attached because I don't talk to every one of these people.
yeah,
And I'm the kind of person that really likes helping people. So the people I do talk to, I'm like, let me show you how to use everything in my system. And if they don't like it, then I am emotionally attached to it.
yeah,
But we put in place more of a machine with those things where we're bringing in these users. They look at it, they use it, they pay the money, they keep going, and we're working for this greater group
yeah,
of people. Whereas in the agency, it really is like it's a very much a relationship business. It is 100% a relationship business.
yeah.
And the bigger your company, the more relationships, the more things you got to manage, and you have a high risk of things falling apart sometimes too if you're doing complex projects.
Yeah. So now you also mentioned earlier, with the accident, wanting to spend more time with family. And you mentioned working with your girlfriend. You also work with your mom. Is part of that by design, where you can work and spend time with people you care about?
Yes, for sure, for sure. I knew.
I
So my
mean,
mom came in and helped me during 2008 when the business was really starting to struggle from the recession. She was an accountant, and so she was helping me manage books and do some figure out where the money's going to go and how we're going to manage things, etc. And then she just stayed on and kept working with us and
yeah,
became more and more integral part. So that was not as much by design. It
okay,
was more because I needed help at the time.
yeah,
But
happy accident.
exactly.
Yeah,
Um, but with Kristen, um, after that long relationship ended, I knew that I wanted to be with somebody that I had a lot in common with, that understood the entrepreneurship side of things,
yeah,
that could work with me as well, and also travel with me.
hmm,
And so it took me many years to find somebody like that.
yeah,
Uh, and I could talk about that for the entire time
yeah.
that we have going. But
What was it that you finally found in terms of the values that you shared?
oh my gosh, a lot of stuff. Kindness,
Yeah,
helping other people, like someone like myself that is directed towards helping other people,
yeah,
that's not self-centered, um, someone that doesn't mind the entrepreneurial lifestyle, in that
yeah,
sometimes you have to work really hard and sometimes you get to take a lot of time off,
yeah,
or where you are able to shift that for yourself.
Yeah.
someone that could, I guess, kind of live with me.
Yeah.
So, live with
Deal with
this
your weaknesses.
exactly, all my strengths and all my weaknesses.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like there's all sorts of the other outside things, like
Yeah.
just enjoying being doing physical activities and traveling and walking and having deep conversations and
Yeah.
that. So, yeah.
So to kind of, I guess, jump on that, talking about just helping others, teaching others, mentoring others. I know you're working on this book to help other SaaS companies. You've got some workshops that you've been doing. What's your intent there to help the next generation of founders?
So running an agency, I've met with so many people over the years that either wanted to build SaaS systems or were in the middle of building them and were struggling or had just wasted all their money.
Yeah.
Mostly had wasted all their money
Yeah.
because there's
On
there's no way that,
spending it on the wrong things. Is
say
that
it
what you
again.
mean? You mean wasting it in terms of spending it on the wrong things, or just
Yeah, like not knowing how to run a business, not validating their idea, not knowing if what they're building is going to sell,
yeah,
not testing things, not knowing how to run a development team, not knowing that they needed to be involved in the
yeah,
development or how they needed to be involved.
yeah,
Um, that there's a litany of things.
yeah,
Um, and what I see, I've seen so many people waste so many millions of dollars. It's just
mhm.
like flushed down the toilet, like never coming back, completely unusable money.
I remember that scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker is just burning the money there in the
Yeah,
docks. Yeah,
yeah.
because
Actually, I might use that in one of my upcoming
there you go.
webinars
Yeah,
because
and they're
that's
like,
what.
"What are you doing?" And he says, "It's not about the money."
And that's the thing is like like anyway. So
Yeah,
people, I've seen so many people waste so much money and like just kill themselves to do these things.
yeah,
Destroy their relationships, destroy their standard of living, just like take major hits trying to grow these kinds of businesses. And all they needed was somebody to go, hey, don't do it like that, do it like this. Here's the
yeah,
step by step. And so my number one was just to help people stop throwing their money away.
yeah,
Like that really, really is my number one thing I wanted to accomplish.
yeah,
The number two was to drive some leads to the business.
yeah,
Just say that, just show our expertise in the system and
yeah,
in these kinds of systems, and say like, if you want somebody who's really good to do your project, give us a call. We'll talk about it.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, that was it. I mean, really, the secondary item really was the secondary item, though,
yeah.
because
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to why I wrote Path of the Freelancer. I just went through this experience and I was able to have success, and I wanted to share that with others because I knew it would help them. And any books I sold along the way was great, but that wasn't the point for that project. So
exactly.
yeah,
So and on top of all that, it's also going to give us some great SEO value. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's good. So, we talked a little about struggle in life, and for you, that accident and everything that came around that. And life can feel and is unfair and challenging at times, but there's also contrasting moments of seasons of joy and prosperity. So as we all go through this journey we call life, and knowing that these ups and downs are coming, what words of wisdom, insights would you share as we close this out here?
Okay. Uh, let's see. Hold on? I gotta scroll. I had notes on that particular item. Oh yeah, here we go. Um, I think the most important thing is to remember, or one of the most important things, many things, but to remember that everyone's fighting a hard fight
Mhm.
and that their problems are important to them, even if you don't understand those problems. I
Yeah,
think it's really important to give grace to people.
yeah,
As I'm sure that I know you and I have talked about many times, I'm not a religious person,
yeah,
but and so when I say grace, I mean the concept of grace, not the religious
yeah,
aspect of grace. But I think that is really, really an important aspect, because at the end of the day, if you can look back on yourself and say, yeah, I did that the right way. Yeah, I treated that person the right way. Yeah, I can sleep at night because I'm a good person and I did these things uh, to show that.
Yeah.
For me, at least, I think that's one of the most important things.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to do all the other things like make a living and, get by and be a um, reasonable piece of society and all of those things. But for me, I think that extending that grace to people is very important.
Mm-hmm. And so, how was when you went through your struggle, were there people that did that for you?
My family, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. My family and my close friends. And also, I will say, when you go through a really, really hard struggle, you learn who your close friends are,
Mm-hmm.
who your real friends are. You learn who's there for you and who's not there for you.
Yeah. And is that what helped you hold on through that time?
Yeah, it helped a lot. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. Sometimes you just got to keep going. Sometimes, like, what are we gonna do? Like, stop and just give up and
Yeah.
die? Like,
Yeah.
you
Well,
got
some people do, right?
so I guess that's more of a personality trait. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
At least I've never been able to do that.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that sometimes it's just pushing through. It's absolutely your family and your friends that help you. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's that.
So what else? Any final words before we close
Yeah,
out?
I had
Anything else you want to share?
yeah, there was one other question you had asked in your stuff about tactics,
Yeah.
which I think we didn't get to that question, but I had a note for you
Okay.
about two things that I do to two of the most important things I do that help me get by day to day and help me figure out the right thing and help me be deliberate in what I'm
Okay.
doing. We
Yeah.
talked a little bit about one. The first one was traveling,
Mhm.
because when I'm not in this situation here, I can think better. But
Yeah.
also, probably the number one thing I do is almost every single night I go on a long walk with my girlfriend. We walk the
Mhm.
dog, actually. And when I
Yeah.
say long, I mean like 2 or 3 miles. It's
Yeah.
not super long, but it's a long enough walk.
But you walk it, so it's half an hour or so.
Exactly. It's at least half an hour.
Yeah.
In fact, it's definitely more than half an hour.
Okay.
And I get that opportunity. She, by the way, is an excellent business person. She knows what's going on. She understands the situation. She is a very strong critical thinker.
Yeah.
And I get the opportunity every single night to talk to her about all of the ideas that I have and what I'm thinking about, where I need to go, what I'm doing, how we need to change things, etc. And that's one of the top things that helps me
Mhm.
grow this business
Yeah.
is having those conversations. And when I don't get to have those conversations, the backup to that, or in the times when we either were not able to do that, or before she and I met,
Yeah.
I'm a part of multiple different mastermind groups where I
Yeah.
meet once a week or sometimes more with other peers in the industry. And we talk about what's going on in our businesses. We hold each other accountable. We talk through the problems we're having. And those things are the top things that I do. And I think it's so easy for business people, especially small business entrepreneurs, to get so wrapped up in what they're doing to not do that and not think and just constantly react or act or react, but not be proactive about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so I would urge anybody watching this or listening to this to be deliberate and take those steps that enable you to be deliberate.
Yeah. Even when it feels like it's the lowest priority item.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
never the lowest priority item. It
Yeah.
may look like it, but it's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
it's either mid to high priority all the time.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Thank you for sharing.
Yep.
So how can people connect with you? Where should they go online to see you, to learn about your business, to connect on social media?
So you can get me at medrevup.com. That's medrevup.com. That's our latest SaaS I mentioned before. Got JH Media Group, which is just jhmediagroup.com. You can always get me through through the contact form there, or Brainleaf, which is BrainLeaf.com as well. And that's, you can get me through that form.
Yeah. Are you on social
And
media? Are you active there?
I am. I'm on Twitter. I just hit like 20,000 followers on Twitter.
Awesome.
Um, let's see, I'm on Twitter, although really don't send me a message on Twitter. I never, I get so many messages. I can't respond to everything. But you
Yeah.
send me a message through Facebook or LinkedIn, and that
Okay.
works as well.
All right. Great. Sounds good. Well, and you can check out my blog at jasonscottmontoya.com to see what's new and hear other people's stories. So thank you very much, Jason. And anything else you want to say before we leave?
I appreciate the opportunity to talk to everyone. I appreciate you. Thank
All
you.
right. You're welcome.